Welcome. We're here at the Villa Amio on the Big Island of Hawaii at this historic time. I'm Linda Benyo Hoppe. This is Geoffrey Hoppe, and we're here to share with you.
Let's take a good deep breath with that because it truly is a historic time right now. What we're going through is unprecedented, and that's why we wanted to gather here with each and every one of you to give this message about what's going on and what may be coming.
This message is for anyone that considers themselves to be Shaumbra.
You know, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about in here that have Shaumbra-esque kind of names. It's that the newcomers or people who are not familiar with Crimson Circle might not really understand. Everybody's welcome to watch this. Everybody's welcome to get the energy from it. But we do let you know up front that some of the things we're talking about, some of the terminology that we use may be unfamiliar unless you've been Shaumbra, unless you've been part of the Crimson Circle.
So to get started, we have the 4 C's. We have consciousness, coronavirus, coming home, and convergence.
I like when we have this alliterations because it kind of helps you remember 4 C's. And this actually kind of came naturally. We didn't have to force anything. It's about, like Linda said, consciousness. And we're going to be talking about the coronavirus. We're going to be talking about coming home, and all of it goes into what we call the convergence of what's really happening right now.
So please remember, we are pioneers in consciousness, here now for a reason. No coincidence that we're here at this time.
Tobias and Adamus have been talking to us for years about the fact that we could have had our realization, our enlightenment, lifetimes ago, but we've waited. We've waited to right now, this very critical and important and amazing time on the planet. So I know a lot of us have been waiting patiently. A lot of us have even forgotten that we're waiting and kind of get into that, just keep on waiting. But this is a message to go out that now is the time, right now, right here.
So we have a convergence timeline.
Yes, we do. We put things on kind of a timeline to kind of help you to understand how things have flowed and what's happening right now.
So a long, long time ago, in a far, far away place, the Order of the Ark is formed to find a solution to the energy impasse in the cosmos.
So that sounds like a line from Star Wars.
Way
Yeah, a
too
long
familiar.
time ago in a place far, far away. But that's really what it's all about. The Order of the Ark was formed. The Order of the Ark is the kind of the assembly of all the 144,000 angelic families through all of creation. Well, energy had kind of come to an impasse, at standstill. Everything was just kind of like stopping in time. So the angelic families, for the first time ever, got together, and they created this thing called the Order of the Ark. The Ark being for archetypical energies, the Ark being for the Ark, kind of like the bridge to eventually find this answer to the energy impasse. And so it was that the Order of the Ark created this scenario that we now know as our physical universe, as our planet Earth, so that representatives from all the angelic families, 144,000 angelic families, could go to learn, to understand the relationship between consciousness and energy.
Wow. So let's go fast forward to September 2007. That was when we did the Quantum Leap event in Taos, New Mexico. It was quite an event, and it was a launch in its own.
It really was, and that's quite a leap, by the way, going from the Order of the Ark all the way to 2007, but that's the next really important part. Tobias was working with us at the time. We had this great event in New Mexico with about 700 Shaumbra from over 40 different countries around the world. Tobias said this was a time of the quantum leap in consciousness on the planet. Enough had changed, enough had transpired during all the history of the planet, and now the quantum leap in consciousness where things were going to shift and change at an unprecedented rate. We've seen that in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
We've seen what's happened since 2007. I'll never forget that event, the camaraderie, the beauty, we had great presentations. It's also when Adamus was a guest. He wasn't with us full-time back then, but he was a guest, and he gave a great talk about what's coming in the future. So if you get a chance, you might even want to check back on that, the channels from the Quantum Leap, September 2007.
So now, it was September 2009 when Adamus guides the Crimson Circle after Tobias has left.
So Tobias has been with us for 10 years, helping us to release a lot of old stuff, helping us to remember that we're not alone, and helping us to remember that we're not crazy. Then in July 2009, he did his farewell in Breckenridge, Colorado, because he was going to be reincarnating back on the planet as this being known as Sam. He was going to come back to do the one thing he never really did, even in his lifetime, his last lifetime on the planet in enlightenment. He never really enjoyed life. So he said, I'm coming back as Sam. And not only did he come back, but along with that, 1,516 other ascended masters came back to the planet, not to save the planet, but rather to really just be here to enjoy life. So
It was a first-time event that had ever happened.
that's correct. So right after that, Adamus Saint-Germain came in. It's Saint-Germain, but he uses the name Adamus Saint-Germain to differentiate himself from all the other work of all the other Saint-Germain channels and channelers of the past. He wanted this Adamus Saint-Germain, or as he calls it once in a while, Professor Adamus, to be the exclusive entity that was working with Crimson Circle to avoid the confusion. And I'll never forget his first channel with us. We were still at the Coal Creek Hall up in Colorado. And he came in, and he was a lot different than Tobias. He was brash. He had me open my eyes when I was channeling. I was used to 10 years of channeling with my eyes closed. And he had me walking around. It was quite a deal.
It was very different experience for all of us, Geoffrey.
But he set the pace with us.
Yes, he did. Very clear.
Yeah.
And really big on trust yourself.
What Adamus said at that time also is he said, I'm going to be here with you every step of the way into your realization, every step of the way. He knew that some people would go by the wayside. They really actually weren't ready to commit themselves to their realization in this lifetime. In the years since, he's invited people to leave fairly often because his point is very simple. You're either with Crimson Circle because you're here for realization, or there are plenty of other groups for you. One time he said, I don't care if it's even just 5 people, but I am here to work with those who are choosing embodied realization, to have their enlightenment and to stay in their physical body. And that's what he's been working with us on. Sometimes he's a taskmaster. Sometimes he's just distracting. Once in a while, he's very entertaining. But he's with us every step of the way.
Well, he tends to evaluate what we're doing and tries to find a method to get us along that path as efficiently as possible.
Absolutely.
And I have learned to appreciate that. So at the January 2014 Shoud, that was when Adamus went after only the masters. Literally, Adamus asked everyone to leave the room, to leave the meeting room, on the video where, on the
Webcast.
On the webcast. And he said, everyone leave and don't come back. Only come back if you're ready to be a master.
I'll never forget, that was, again, at the Coal Creek Community Center when we were still doing our webcast from there. And it was a cold winter day. It was January 2014. Yeah. And he invited everybody to leave. And at first, everybody looked a little like stunned or not sure they were hearing him right. But he's like, no, go out the door. And only come back if you're ready to be a master. And again, this is him really focusing on the essentials. He's not here to talk about peripheral things. He's here for those who are ready to be masters. So that was kind of a turning point. Not only that, but at that time, he also said for all those who came back in, or all those who are watching online that kind of came back in, he said, I want to send you a master pin. These were little spade pins that we had made up. So we ended up, we had over 6,500 requests for the master pins. We sat with the staff stuffing envelopes and mailing, and that was a big project. And I know there was a few internal gripes about it, but it proved the point. Proved the point to everybody who was had requested the pins, everybody, and to the staff, that this is a time where we're going to go forward with masters only. That was a turning point.
So then in January 2014, that was Pronost 2014, the very first Pronost. That pronost was loaded with information about now, about global virus, and many, many other important things.
And when you say now, it was loaded with information 6 years ago about what's happening right
Now,
now
literally.
in 2020.
Right.
We had kind of all but forgotten it. And once we started going back into some of the materials, we realized that he had actually talked about a global virus that spread very quickly that they didn't understand, that would really cause a lot of disruption on the planet. It wasn't just nebulous about a virus. He said it was going to be very disruptive, and that they just wouldn't know how to control it, which is what we're living with right now.
You know, I heard it, but I think I didn't want to.
Yeah. So that first pronost is the annual kind of the planetary forecasting that Adamus does. Most of the time, he just wants to work with us. He's not really focusing on the rest of the planet. But once a year now, he comes in for pronost. This was the first one, January 2014. And it was just weeks after he did the thing with asking everybody to leave and only the masters to come back.
Well, it's so special because he's offering us perspective,
Yeah.
and that makes such a big difference when you have perspective on what things are.
Absolutely.
So then, at the January 2016 pronost, Adamus begins with an in-depth discussion about technology, time of machines, and how this would all be world-changing.
He talked a lot about technology and has been ever since. The phrase time of machines comes from the book he supposedly wrote at the end of his last lifetime, where he time traveled into 2020. And he calls it the time of machines because everybody's looking at their little devices, their little machines. It's really the time of computers, but they didn't have that word back then, so he called it the time of machines. And there was some Shaumbra that have kind of questioned and said, well, what are we talking about all this technology for? What difference does it make? But right now, it's a key to the speed at which things are changing on the planet. It's all about technology, artificial intelligence and nanotechnology and all of the other things that are literally changing life on this planet, and sooner than later are literally going to change the human species, going from a Homo sapien species to a Robo sapien species.
It's phenomenal, and it's, again, I'm glad I can handle sci-fi because we are living in a sci-fi time. I mean, it's happening so fast that it's almost impossible to imagine what is the next thing that they've come up with.
Yeah. Oh, and you like you said, you like science fiction. I've never been that much of a fan of it, but I've really gotten into the talks that Adamus has done about technology. And what I find fascinating is what he's talked about 3 or 4 years ago now is actually coming true. So he was able to really see into how technology is changing everything on the planet.
So, to add to all that, then on June 2018 at the pronost update, Adamus let us know that it was time to say goodbye to Gaia. Gaia's leaving.
You know, he and I believe Tobias had also talked about
He
it
did.
a little bit in the past,
bit.
but this pronost update in June 2018 was focused on Gaia leaving. And the reason why Gaia is leaving, according to the entities, is that here on Earth, it's time for us to take responsibility now for the planet. Gaia has been an entity that helped infuse the Earth with life force energies, brought nature, the animal kingdoms, the sky and the water kingdoms and that. But now it's our turn to take responsibility for this planet.
And so, January 2019 pronost, that's when Adamus introduced the dragon enters.
He talks about the dragon coming to the planet. Now, the dragon is a symbol for that part of consciousness that will dig up things that are unresolved or hidden away in us, things that need to be released. He had talked a lot about the dragon in our threshold gathering. It's really a very important part of your coming to realization, because the dragon goes in and finds all the things that are buried, covered up, hidden, held in guilt or shame. And now in the Pronost 2019, he talks about the dragon coming to the planet, which you could pretty much surmise that it means things are going to start getting shaken up on the planet. The planet is going through a phase right now, and the dragon comes in to make sure we don't just suppress things, push them down anymore.
So, recently, with the January 2020 pronost, Adamus made it very clear that we are in a planetary awakening.
So now here we have the dragon coming in January 2019. Now we have the planetary awakening. Now, you know from your own awakening that it can be very rude at times. It can be rough. There's a beauty to it, but it's also really, really rough. So what he's saying is the planet is ready for an awakening. Humanity is ready. It's not going to happen overnight. For many of us, it took lifetimes. For the planet, who knows how long it's going to take. But the important thing to remember from this, the planet, humanity starts awakening. So things are naturally going to go a little bit crazy.
Okay, and then recently, during a workshop here in Kona, February 2020, it was announced that the Order of the Ark is closing.
Adamus talked about this again at the March Shoud, which was just really literally weeks ago. But basically said the Order of the Ark, remember, this is the gathering of all the angelic families. It's the representatives from the angelic families saying, let's find a solution to this impasse of energy. And now, a few weeks ago, he announces the Order of the Ark has done its job. It's closing up. That's pretty big, pretty phenomenal. And that gives one pause to say, what is happening right now? If the Order of the Ark is closing because their job is done, what's actually happening right now?
So then, in February 2020, coronavirus becomes a worldwide pandemic.
We're all very familiar with that right now because we're right in the midst of it. It's happening all around us. It started out small and spread very, very quickly. Here at Villa Amio, we were set up to do a number of workshops. We've canceled all those, of course, because the possibility of spreading this any further, and it was time for everybody to get back home. So now we're right in the middle of the coronavirus, which is literally changing the face of the planet. It's unprecedented to have anything like this occurring. Then at the March 2020 Shoud, Adamus had this to say: when the dragon comes forth, the call will go out to return home to all who are not in human form, all who are not on the planet. This was pretty big, basically saying that the call goes out, and the way he also stated it was that the aliens, the ones who have been interfering, the ones who have been kind of hanging out, who really hadn't taken on human form, plus a lot of what he called the interferers, who were on the planet even in human form, they were being called back home. So would you mind repeating that quote from Adamus?
Sure. So when the dragon comes forth, the call will go out to return home to all who are not in human form, who are not on the planet.
That kind of gives me the chills.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, he's saying something big, but we had yet to really understand. Although
I didn't really want to imagine what he was saying, actually.
Right.
Actually.
Although he had actually talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Remember at the Angels and Aliens workshop in Poland back in May 2011, he had this to say.
So his quote from there was, Adamus said, "These angels, the dark angels, their time is coming to an end. They're beginning to understand that even at the core of things, light and dark have come together. It's the beginning of the end of duality."
So he even alluded to it back then, that all this nonsense, all this interference, all the angelic wars that were kind of taking place and affecting humanity, it was time for that to end.
Wow. So on March 2020, at the Journey of the Angels update, Adamus said, "All beings are being called back to their angelic families right now for an announcement."
Well, there I go, getting those chills again.
I know.
We recently did an update on Journey of the Angels. It was originally done by Tobias, but we added some really phenomenal sessions from our dear Adamus. And in that, he announced that all beings are being called back to their angelic families right now for an announcement. And that would not include human beings who are currently on the planet in human forms, but all other beings through all of creation are being called back home right now. I mean, that is chilling. There's a big message in that, a huge message that's coming up very soon that's going to be distributed all throughout creation. And the message is, the angelic families are disbanding. The angelic families are disbanding. All 144,000 of the angelic families are ungrouping. If you remember in one of the shouts very recently, Adamus talked about ungrouping. Well, now we have even the angelic families ungrouping. This is amazing information, but also in doing a little research, we realized that even Tobias mentioned it a while back. I don't know if you remember the Ask Tobias session that we did. It was called Mormons and Other Spiritual Families, done in 2007. And in that, he said the entire concept of the angelic families is dissolving right now. So it was brought up to us even back then. So what does this mean? It really means that humans are beginning to understand the very reason why Earth was created through the order of the ark. They're beginning to understand the relationship between consciousness and energy. They're beginning to understand that all the energy is theirs and it's all within. This begins to free up all the energy in all of creation. Remember when we talked about everything in the creation had kind of come to an impasse, at a standstill. This beginning of the realization of the relationship between consciousness and energy, the fact that energy is all yours. They didn't know this before. We found that out on Earth from the work that you're doing, other humans are doing. We found the energy is all yours and it's there to serve you. That now is freeing up all the energy in all of creation, and then also really allowing the angelic families to disband right now. What we have, what we're living in, what we're doing here right now is an amazing convergence of so many different things, and it's happening right now. It's not something in the future. It's happening right now. We have all the elements coming together. Gaia is leaving. It's the time of machines, in other words, when technology plays such an important part of our life. That's converging. The dragon enters. That's one of the pieces of the convergence. The planet begins to awakening. You see how it's all coming together. And then along comes the coronavirus. Coronavirus. Who'd have thought that all humans would be sitting at home at this time without it being caused by a war or anything else, but a virus, the coronavirus, causing so many changes in our human lives. And then the order of the ark closing, calling it a day, business is done. They did what they came to do, and now it's closing. And almost simultaneously, the clarion call goes out for all the, what I call aliens, to return home. All of those who have been in the peripherals of Earth, all of the ones who've been either interfering or really where they just aren't contributing to the planet right now, they're being called back home, and the angelic families are disbanding. It's amazing right now because everyone is being called back home. Humans are being called home, asked to stay at home because of the coronavirus. Aliens are being called back home, or what we call the aliens, the non-human beings, are called back to their spiritual family. It is a time of coming home. And according to Adamus, it's truly unprecedented in all of creation. Who would have thought, could have figured out how to get even humans to stay at home, but it's happening right now on the planet. We have a few quotes from Tobias that really tie into everything that we're doing here. Linda, would you mind giving us the quotes?
It's time for masters to step forward.
It's very simple and straightforward. It's time for masters to step forward. No longer making excuses, no longer being the victims, no longer delaying your realization. It's time for masters to step forward. And it's easy for us because I know so many Shaumbra were kind of hiding for so long because of persecution in this lifetime or past lifetimes. They wanted to remain quiet. They were kind of loners at heart. But now Adamus is saying it's time for the masters to step forward. He also said,
This is it. It's why you're here. This is the time of the greatest change that you will ever experience on this planet.
this is it. That's why we're here. We've waited a long time. We've delayed our realization. We've waited until we've gotten to this point, and this is it. This is it right now. This is the Passion 2020. It's why we're here. And he also said,
Remember why you came here, to bring, to embody, and to live consciousness at a time most needed on the planet.
and that's so important, is now is a time to remember. Now is a time to go deep within and really remember why you're here. And it's not just to live another lifetime. Tobias said that so very long ago. This is the lifetime, and we're here right now at this time of convergence with all these elements, all these unprecedented elements happening all right now. And now, a few words about your realization. You're at home. I mean, literally, you're at home in your apartment, your flat, your home, wherever it happens to be. You're at home for a reason right now. And it's, the coronavirus is the thing kind of causing that, but there's something much bigger behind it. You're at home. You have these, weeks, maybe months to be at home because it's time to allow your realization. Without all the distractions, without all the noise, without everything else going on, without your job and all the daily pressures, this is the time that we created for ourselves to allow your realization, or as Adamus says, it's time to relax into your realization. There's so few distractions right now compared to normal times. It's such a perfect time for yourself, a time to allow. All the time remembering that it's your energy. Let it serve you. This realization that it's all your energy and it's there to serve you. It's the very thing that actually caused the Order of the Ark to say, job is done. There are enough humans on the planet now that understand that. The momentum is there and it's not going to change. It may take a long time for other humans to really ever realize that, but there are enough now who understand it's your energy. Energy is the song of the soul. Energy is communication. It's all your energy. Now let it serve you as a master. So I think it's time. I know Adamus would love to come in and say a few words. Would you grace us with some breathing as we bring Adamus in?
It's my pleasure. So with that, let's take the good deep breath. Feeling into all these messages, all this information that has led to now. Feel into all that and take the good deep breath, allowing the energies to flow. Remember, it's all your energy. Take the good deep breath and breathe. The I am here. I exist. Take the good deep breath and invite Adamus in close. As we know, he's here every step of the way. Flow with the good deep breath, breathing from you with all that you are, breathing with presence. Take that good deep breath as we open to what Adamus has to share with us. Breathe.
I am that I am. Adamus of Saint-Germain. Indeed, it is unprecedented what's happening on the planet right now. There's no denying it. Your human mind might doubt some of the things. It might be holding on to hopes that everything gets back to normal, like right away. But this whole thing with all the calling back home, it's going to go on for a little bit. I'll explain in just a moment. But right now, understand that through all of creation, billions and billions of soul beings are being called back home to their angelic families. Billions and billions are hearing the clarion call, come back home. They're being commanded back home. If they are perhaps hesitating, not wanting to come back, they're being commanded back to their angelic families. At the same time, on the planet Earth, billions and billions of people are being asked to stay home. Unprecedented. It's never happened in all the history of this planet. Who would have thought how would you get humans all across the world to be at home for weeks of time without mass chaos taking place? Certainly many humans are in fear, wondering what's going to happen next. The anxiety level on the planet is a little bit higher than normal. But who would have thought that you could get billions and billions of humans to stay at home? Everybody is being called home right now. It's unprecedented. Recently, I said the coronavirus was about economics. Viruses have their origins in rebalancing energies. You could say there's a biological aspect to it, but there's also an energetic aspect to it. For a while now on this planet, the economy, the monies have been unbalanced, and this virus comes along, and of course, what's the biggest impact right now? Other than human lives, but the biggest impact is the economy. The economy, that's what's in the news. That's what people are worried about. That's what they're wondering about as the stock market falls, as people wonder about how they're going to have the money to pay for anything now that they're not working. But really, even beyond that, at the core of money is just energy itself. As enough humans on the planet are coming to realize that the energy is theirs. All the energy is yours, and it's there to serve you. This really shakes things up, or we could say the dragon shakes things up. And that's the coronavirus. Ultimately, it's about getting people to realize that the energy is theirs. They may not realize it right away. They may not have the same understanding, but ultimately, getting people to realize that the energy isn't out there. It's not in a paycheck. It's not in a job. The energy isn't held by some galactic command, or the energy isn't just in the universe somewhere. The energy is all right here. You're among the first to really begin to realize it. I know there's still doubt. There's still times where you understand it as an intellectual concept, but not quite feeling it yet, but you will. You start to realize day by day, moment by moment, that the energy is yours. Everything. It's all yours. It's all yours, and it's there to serve you. So what you're going through right now, absolutely unprecedented in this call back home, this call to come home to all the other beings all around the universe and the omniverse. It's happening right now. The date, the official date of the announcement for the fact that the angelic families are being disbanded is coming soon. It's actually been scheduled, because it ties in so well to the numbers, it's scheduled for April 4th, 2020. Not too far away, April 4th. Because it's also symbolic of transitioning from the 33 number, the Christ consciousness number, which is now firmly planted on the planet, and now going into the master number, 44. So what a perfect time on April 4th, the fourth month, the fourth day, on the year 2020, which adds up to a 4. The announcement will go out. It will start. It will be basically all day to the planet Earth, starting with the very first who come into that date, starting and going then across the entire planet, a day-long calling of this whole thing, the angelic beings coming back home, and then the angelic families disbanding. It just happens to be the date of our April shout. We're going to have a very, very special shout, different than the others we've ever had, a special shout on April 4th to feel into and to honor this announcement that the angelic families are disbanding. Let's take a good deep breath into that. We'll be back for more on April 4th. But for right now, I'd like you to feel into not only what you've done on this planet, how far you've come, but I'd like you to feel into your time of coming to realization. This is it right now. As Caldera and Linda said, this is it. No more wavering. No more letting doubts get in your way. No more holding back. It's time for you to be who you truly are once again. It's been a long, long time. Long, long time of your true self, your genuine self, your free self getting covered up, getting lost. And then as you try to emerge out of that, you always have this feeling that something is pulling you back, holding you back. But not anymore. It's time for your realization, and all you have to do is relax into it. That's it. Use this time right now while you're at home to relax into your realization. And then I look forward to seeing each and every one of you, no matter where you are in the world, on April 4th, 2020, when the grand announcement goes out to all the angelic families. It's time to disband. It's time to be free. With that, we live in most interesting but most appropriate times. I am Adamus, in honored service to you. Thank you.
And so it is. Please take the good deep breath. Really let the energies flow. Take the good deep breath, feeling into this invitation to relax. Take the good deep breath as we close this session on Convergence. Take the good deep breath, and we hope to hear from you soon, to see you soon. Thank you.